All right, so while we wait for a few people to join us live, we're going to be going on to two different platforms at the same time. On Facebook Live as well, although people are probably wondering about the angle on Facebook Live. Don't worry too much about it. So I want to apologize to those who are tuned in on Facebook Live as well. The angle's going to be a bit weird, but again, totally unavoidable. Very, very spontaneous little 11 p.m. Singapore time live session tonight. Why? Just because it's just been on my heart to be able to do this. I haven't done this for a while, but today's a very special day. It's actually been a year, like literally 365 days to the day that I was given the chance and the honor. I called it just being really blessed to be able to deliver my first TEDx talk. This was something that had been on my heart for a while, to be able to do, to be able to have something of value, or produce a TED Talk of value. I was always intrigued by TED Talks. They always gave me a jolt of inspiration, always lifted me up, especially the ones that do lift you up, of course. And I always wanted to be able to do them, and finally, but there's a lot that obviously goes into creating a TED Talk, as I soon found out. I had the opportunity to do one last year on exactly 05/05/2020, so it's a day that I'll never forget. And instead, I always tell the story, instead of my wife and I being in Switzerland, delivering this TED Talk on a stage with an audience of 300 people, I suddenly found myself in my bedroom, right, delivering this TED Talk, from my bedroom, because that's a state that the world was in, right? And obviously we've been in this state for give and take more than a year now, and the situation, of course, has changed and evolved, but not that much, because people are still indoors. We're still, somebody put it beautifully today, we're being held almost imprisoned by this nasty virus, right? That has just kind of changed life and how life has been operating. So no matter where in the world you're joining us from today, and if you watch this later on a bit of a recording, and I'll place this on YouTube, I just want to thank you again for just being part of the journey and for coming in and for joining in tonight. Tonight was just on my heart to be able to go live and say, look, it's been a year since I did this talk on my first TEDx, and I just wanted to kind of give that back or pay that forward tonight. Just talk about some principles that we described in that TEDx that still stand the test of time. I remember thinking to myself, what a topic. And a lot of people, whenever you're invited to do a TEDx, and I guess this was always the pressure that I had on my heart when I was called to do the TEDx, was what message can you give the world? What one idea can you give the world in 10 minutes or less, or maybe 15 minutes. Mine is a 16-minute one on YouTube, so I broke the law there. But what is the one idea you want to communicate? What's the one key takeaway you want people to have? So, like I said, huge blessing, was really, really passionate and pumped and excited to be able to do that. And it's been a year, and I just wanted to recap some of those messages. Since that time, I've done a couple of things that I really believe in. A lot of people said, hey, are you going to write a book? This is a lovely concept. Are you going to do a book on it? Are you going to do a podcast on it? Didn't do the book. I know people talk about writing a book for years on end. Decided to do a podcast instead, and actually called it Bible Bites for Believing Right. Now, a lot of people, in fact, I had somebody ask me last week, why Bible Bites? Are you religious? And my answer to that was, no, hate religion. Religion screws things up. Religion, causes wars, causes fights, and so not part of what I believe in. What I do believe in there, and I use that very, very distinctly, because the TEDx that I did was called Check Your BS, which is actually kind of short for Check Your Belief Systems. And that's just a reminder that no matter what we believe in or find ourselves believing in, those are the results we get in our life. So I guess that first invitation, and probably what I'm going to ask you to think about tonight. Tonight is just going to be a bit informal, so don't know how long this is going to go for. Probably about 30 minutes maximum. So if you can stick around for that, it was just spontaneous. It was just something that I had on my heart to do, and more than happy for you to stick around and ask any questions that you have. as we plow through this, or better stay towards the end and just ask that Q&A then. For those of you, obviously, for people that cannot make it, obviously because of the spontaneity of tonight, I will place that on YouTube as well for you to watch at any point of time. So I hope it brings you some inspiration. Hope it brings you a little bit of encouragement, no matter where you find yourself tonight. Hope it brings you just a feeling of peace and some motivation. You know, we all need to be motivated. We all need to be encouraged. Would you agree with me? Give me a yes if you're watching live. We all need to be encouraged, especially today. No matter what we're doing, no matter what job, no matter what career, no matter where where you're serving in life. That's what I like to call it. We need to be encouraged by one another, and I hope this does that for you tonight. I hope this encourages you in some way, shape, or form. All right. So tonight, I did make some notes. I know it's cheesy, but I did make some notes because how did I get to the topic? How did I get to the topic called Check Your BS? Why did I choose belief systems? Well, I genuinely believe, like I said, I'm not a religious person, but I am a spiritual one. What that means is I do believe that there's a good God. I believe there's nothing, that he's not bad and he doesn't have anything bad to send you. And I do believe that and I'll talk a little bit about it as we go, and if it comes up, I do believe that every one of you, and I know that it doesn't matter again what religion you're in, I talked about the stuff that worked for me. Where has success come from in my life? And I truly believe that the biggest forms of success, or the biggest successes I've ever had in my whole life, are all down to this Creator God. I know that all of you in some way, shape, or form believe in a God. And I think if you can start with that core belief in your life, then you'll see incredible results from that. I know that I have. So, what better than to speak about the stuff that I know about? So I remember really just kind of freaking out a few weeks before the TEDx. And I'm just sharing my heart with you here. So I remember just freaking out and going, what's my one idea? What do I want to tell the world? Or what's the idea that I want to give? And this just took shape over that week. So it was a week of prayer. It was a week of asking for help. It was a week of, or maybe a couple of weeks of just agonizing about it. What's a real message people need to have at this time? So as I was saying, being on a stage in Switzerland versus being in my bedroom delivering this TEDx. On a stage in Switzerland, we would have 300 people in an audience. When we went live, for this, probably one of the first virtual TEDx's of all time, we had 5,000 people watch it in the same night. And I think that's, if you ever want to think about some positives, and I know there's not a ton of positives, but if you ever want to think about a positive, it's getting a message out to people that need it, being close to people around the world. I think we've had that more than ever in this year. So I think this virus situation has caused us to be more close. Would you agree? To people that you love, to people that you care about, to people that mean a lot to you, to your parents, to your elders. So I really think that there's some benefits. If you ever want to take away some benefits, there are benefits to what we've experienced. And I think you start to realize what's really important to you and keep close to the people that really matter to you. And I hope that's been the same for you as well. All right, let's get right down to it. So check your BS, check your belief systems. What is a belief system? It's anything in your life that's either giving you great results or holding you back. What do I mean by that? The simplest way for you to think about a belief is look at the results you're having in your life and then go, what do I believe about that topic? It's that simple as that. It doesn't have to go further. The concept is very simple. What's the result I'm getting in this relationship? What do I believe about that relationship? What's the result I have in my finances? Now, what do I believe in my finances? What's the result I'm getting from a relationship with my child? Now, what do I believe about that child? Why am I asking about this? Is because our results in life stem from our deepest beliefs. You see, a belief always creates, and me being a leadership speaker and speaking to audiences around the world, I've really been blessed and privileged to have spoken to people from vice presidents to senior vice presidents to COOs and CEOs and this has really stood the test of time. A belief is something that will always generate a result. How it does that is if you believe a certain way, you can be sure you're going to behave a certain way. And when you behave a certain way, your body starts to generate a similar behavior again and again. And that produces a result in your life. I talked about money. So if you're having issues with your money, or how to invest your money, or how to save your money, or then go back to what you believe. You know, do you believe that YOLO and you only live once, so you're gonna spend your paycheck? Then you're probably gonna end up broke before the end of the month and waiting for your next paycheck. But if you believe that you want to put a little bit aside for a rainy day, you're going to start to behave a certain way, right? And then you're not left broke anymore, but you've actually got some saved over. Is that okay? I hope that's probably one of the easiest way to put it. Think about another one. Think about the relationship you have with your son or your parent. If it's a bad relationship, you almost want to go back to, what have I allowed myself to believe about this parent or this child? For instance, do I believe that this parent always wanted to pick on me? Then you start, if you think about that, you'll start to realize that you've been behaving with that belief in mind. You see, our beliefs are just, when you keep dwelling on your beliefs, which is really a thought pattern, it starts to create what we call a neural pathway, and that pathway just becomes stronger and stronger and stronger until one day, without even realizing it, you're waking up and you're behaving in life out of that neural pathway. You're behaving a certain way and you don't even know where that's come from. You don't know why certain people, you get mad at certain people. Am I right? You don't know why this particular person or leader makes you feel like that. And yet, go back to your belief about that leader. A lot of leaders I talk to will say, oh man, I wish I had a better team. My team is just inherently a lazy team. I inherited a lazy team. And now what's really weird about that is, when you ask them to look at their results, they'll often say, well, I'm not getting the results I want because I have a lazy team. What's remarkable is this: if they shifted their belief to say, okay, I have this team, but this is just what I've allowed myself to believe about this team, they'd realize that there's a whole different way. Because when you believe someone's inherently lazy, then you're going to start treating them like they're lazy. What's incredible is you start to get lazy results. You start to get results that are pathetic. But if you treat people like they're winners, they behave like they're winners. There's a remarkable story. I don't even know if I should share, but I'll share this story with you. There's this incredible story about a substitute teacher in the U.S. And this substitute teacher kind of comes in and there's probably about 3 months for this person to prove themselves. So they start to teach. And what they start to find is they're given pretty much an average set of students, slightly below average actually. But in about 3 or 4 months, this teacher has taken them to excellence, complete excellence. First they suspected something was wrong. So they actually went back and they checked and said, okay, where are these results coming from? Is she giving students the test results? Where are all these incredible results coming from? And then what happened is they realized, no, everything was above board, everything was good. So then they went back and they said, listen, we'd like to interview you. You're doing exceptionally well. You've taken a group of below average students and you've turned them into winners. You've turned them into phenomenal, students with great results. We'd like to evaluate your teaching methods. And the substitute teacher said, what do you mean? It's just my students. My students are exemplary kids. So they said, no, well, actually, we don't want to be rude, but they're not. Because you really had a batch of average students or below average students, but you've transformed them into winners. And now tell us how you did that. We'd really love to know. And this teacher says, look, actually, you remember on the day I was hired, you gave me a sheet of all their IQ scores, and their IQ scores are phenomenal. And so the principal looked at her and said, well, we don't actually show IQ results to our teachers. We keep them very confidential, and we certainly don't show them to substitute teachers. And so this teacher insisted and said, well, that's not true because you showed me this. Don't you remember the green slip of paper? And they walked back and they said, what green slip of paper? So they tracked back this green slip of paper and they pulled it out and said, look, here are all my students' names, and on the side, Here are all their IQ results and all their IQ scores. And you've given me a set of very intelligent students. And the principal took a deep breath and said, those are their locker numbers. So I don't know if you caught that, right? If you got that entire story, but what had happened obviously was this teacher had chosen to believe that her students were winners, that they were exceptional students, that they had phenomenal, IQs, and was treating them like that. So this teacher upped her game plan every day, up to teaching plan every day, to make sure that she was teaching these students and just raising the bar with them. So what do you believe about a situation can really transform how you behave? Because this teacher believed she had world-class students, so she behaved in a certain way. She started to change her behavior. She started to form a teaching plan. She started to teach winners. She started going with the mindset that, whoa, I can't drop my teaching style. I've got to do phenomenal things because I've got to raise this level. And sooner or later, what had happened was she had turned a group of average students into winners. My point is, what are some things in your life that need changing? What are some things that you consider a loss, so to speak, and you want to just transform that area of your life? You want to become a winner in that certain aspect. Go back and evaluate what you've allowed yourself to believe about yourself in that area. So if you like what you're hearing, stick around. We got some more for you. So that's really a belief system, right? What's holding you back or what's pushing you forward? Let me make some notes here. I really did put a short session together for you tonight. So a couple of things to walk away with and just a couple of things to encourage you tonight, is no matter where you find yourself, really start to think of yourself, think, what are my core beliefs about myself? What have I allowed myself to believe about myself? I call it starting with the heart. So for instance, at the heart, do you believe you're a great person? Do you believe you were created with a calling, with a purpose, with a destiny? Do you believe you were born a champion? I often ask questions like this, and I've asked questions like this, and they're always, they're met with sarcasm, or they're met with, oh, he's so cheesy. This training guy, he's so cheesy. But the truth is, it's not about being cheesy. It's just what we believed. If you look at when you were 7 years old or 8 years old and somebody asked, what do you want to be? There was no hesitation, right? I want to be a rock star. I want to be a policeman. I want to be, whatever. I want to be a doctor. I want to save lives. So what happens to us when we're 21 and we don't know what to choose in college? What changed from 7 years old to 21 years old? What changed? And this is something that I want to invite you to think about. A lot of the times we wake up and we got hopes and dreams. I call it the eternal heart. And that eternal heart is something that I've noticed in every relationship, in leaders that I've worked with, in people I've had the good fortune to coach. You see an eternal heart. You see man, and this is why I sometimes refer to the Bible when I teach. Man was destined for greatness, always was. In fact, the Bible tells us God created man to rule, to have authority, to reign. So what's incredible is when you have that heart, if you're created with a big heart and for godly things, for great things, sooner or later you want to grow, you want to get promoted, you want to do great things, you want to become a CEO, and you realize, where's that drive coming from? A lot of people walk the planet thinking, why am I here? Why am I on earth? What purpose do I serve in my community, with my family? And if you haven't asked yourself those questions, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. It'll come. There'll be days where those have been on your heart. And go ahead and type that into the chat if that's ever been on your heart. So you'll have days where you're questioning, what am I doing here? How do I contribute to the bigger picture? This is why programs like Start With Why are so popular, because because people want to know their purpose. They want to know, why am I here? Why am I in this company? Why am I in this walking the earth at this time? And it's simpler than just my mom and dad loved each other very much, right? It's because you have an eternal heart, and I really believe that. So what I like to tell people is, never forget that you're born a champion. You're created with purpose. You're created with destiny. A lot of times when people fail to believe this, I ask them to go and look in their children's eyes, and you'll see a human being that's just fresh baked, especially a young child, just freshly baked, freshly created from heaven and just sent to you as a gift. And what's incredible is if you are able to dwell on that, then you'll see just how you've been created as well, the same way, with purposes, with calling, with destiny, with dreams that are bigger than yourself, that are bigger than just going to work and clocking in at a job every day. So really start to focus on that. How have I been created? What's my calling? What's my destiny? Don't forget that you were born with greatness in you. And like I said, at 7-year-old you want to go and conquer the world, but at 21 years old you're struggling to decide your major. Never forget that how this has changed, or what changes in our lives, are the thoughts we let in. I said to you that belief systems just come about from us thinking about certain things. Sometimes when a teacher has taken out their anger on a student in school, or spoken rudely to somebody, or said to somebody, "You'll never be successful," that voice sticks in our heart, sticks in our emotions, sticks in our mind. And what happens is we start to operate out of that really negative mindset. We start to accept that as truth when in fact it's not. It's the opinion of a tired teacher who was having a horrible day at work and just said something out loud. But it's not the truth. Remember that it is not the truth. So whatever lies you've heard, whatever's held you back from greatness, from believing that you were made special, you were made great, shake that off and walk ahead with your head held high. Can I remind you to do that, please? And if this is encouraging you, please let me know. But really hold your head up high and just walk in your calling and your destiny, because you were destined for greatness. How I prove that to people, and I made a habit of proving it, is if you ever find yourself kind of wondering, what are my strengths? What are things that I'm good at? I invite you to go ahead and try and take a test online. There are free tests and they're called strengths tests. So go ahead and try one out, and you'll just be reminded how there are things that only you can do, things that are only built into you, things that are purposed only for you. In fact, there's an amazing stat that says the odds of somebody else having the same strengths as you on the planet is 1 in 33 million. I love that stat because it just reminds me of how unique you are. And remember that you are unique. You are very unique today. So if somebody needs to hear this tonight, you are very unique, created very differently. The skills and abilities and talents you have are very, very rare and unique to you, because you have a calling and a destiny and a purpose on the planet. So make sure that you never lose sight of that greatness. So I hope you're enjoying this. Let's keep going. The next couple of things that we've talked about is changing your focus. I call it changing your focus by changing your feed. What that means is a lot of the times our belief systems, remember the whole idea is check your belief systems, because those are the results you're getting in life. Our belief systems are built by what we're focusing on, what we're allowing to occupy our thoughts during the day. Sometimes it's about it's time to unfollow some Instagram accounts. It's time to just unfollow some people that are constantly being negative on their feed. I always say, I called it the fear of living once. How are you spending your time? Do you binge something on Netflix for 6 hours? And if so, please don't feel condemned, because all of us do it at some point. But it's just recognizing that time, can be used better tomorrow. So just saying, okay, I did it once, but I've got to try and do better tomorrow. So, the Bible says, teach me to number my days, because we walk the planet for a limited time. So when we're here, let's make an impact. Let's use the time for great things. So there we go. So a lot of the times our emotional state is determined by what we're allowing in, what we're feeding on. I call it the eye gate, the ear gate, the mouth gate. So what I see, what I hear, what I say always determines how I'm feeling. Always remember that. If you're feeling lousy, if you ever had days that go like that, that just kind of slip down, and that's really because we've allowed our emotions to kind of be influenced by what we're taking in. So when we're following somebody's feed, we scroll. Another famous one is we're scrolling Instagram for 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes, we feel lousy. Have you ever had a day like that? So that's what I would encourage you. Just stay away from just scrolling mindlessly, because it can make us feel depressed. Our emotional states are based on exactly that. Our emotions are a huge, beautiful flag or indicator of wrong beliefs. saying, "Oh, this person's so successful, I'm unsuccessful." Immediately, when you say things like that, you start building a wrong belief. You can either allow things to come in from your eyes, from your ears, from your mouth. And what's important is this influences the heart. This influences the heart. So this is why I'm saying your emotions are a great indicator of, are you spending time in the right place? Or do you believe right about a certain topic? Sometimes you might be feeling lousy after scrolling through somebody's Instagram. It's more likely you're saying, "Oh my gosh, look at this person, they're enjoying life. They're enjoying life so much. I don't think I've taken a vacation for a long time. This is just my lot in life." And you start to say things like this, but the truth is you're watching somebody's highlight reel. That's not real. Instagram is not real. It's somebody's highlight reel. You don't know whether that person has just yelled at their kids and smushed them together to get a family picture. And the poor kids, after the picture, they start crying again. You don't know what that person's going through. The person just wants to take a great picture. Again, not knocking anybody here, just saying that Instagram is not the absolute truth. So really kind of look at your feed. What are you letting in through your eyes, through your ears? And what are you letting into your emotions, into your heart? So really start to think about that, where you're spending your time, and remember that your emotions are dictated by what you're following. So change your feed, change your focus, change your filter, and you change your mood and you change your emotions. All right. Another great thing to remember is I call it switch off CNN. Now that's a really powerful one because I call it constant negative news. If you're somebody that watches the news all the time, you're guaranteed on the way to depression. I'm just obviously joking with you at the moment, but there's something very true in that statement I just made. You see, when people are watching something, a lot of the times they don't know that their brains are fitted with mirror neurons, which create emotions in us. Now that can be used very powerfully to do great things. So when we watch an inspirational video, we're pumped and we want to go out and change the world, right? Also, never forget where these come to play is if you're watching a movie, you want proof of mirror neurons. When you're watching a movie, have you ever been so soaked in the movie and so excited about the movie, you start crying about the movie? Have you ever stopped to think, hey, why am I crying? I know this is a budget film. I know this film had a budget. I know these are paid actors. Why am I crying right now? The point is that our brains are fitted with mirror neurons, and this produces emotions in our life. This produces emotions to drive behavior. So remember that when you're watching the news and you can be flooded with bad news on CNN or any news channel, remember that your brain is actually putting yourself in that situation. Now this, you may not believe, but people suffered from PTSD just from watching shootings played out repeatedly on the news. People suffer from sicknesses. There's a syndrome called the intern syndrome, which most medical students experience when they start their training. And you can look it up. It's actually called the intern syndrome. And why they experience this? They actually experience the disease that they're treating. Can you believe that? So they're actually treating a patient and wanting a patient to get better. And here they are experiencing those symptoms. What am I saying to you here? You start to mirror, your brain starts to mirror what you're watching. So be very careful about the shows you're watching, about the content you're watching, because subconsciously your brain starts to mirror that. And then you start to go, oh my gosh, you know what? Why am I behaving like this? Why am I feeling so like it's such an off day? Why am I having such an off day? You don't realize what you've just watched is playing a major havoc with your emotion. So I hope that helps you as well. Again, I call it switch off CNN, switch off the constant negative news, because that can be very harmful to your emotion and to your behavior. All right, getting towards close to the end, but let's stick with it, right? The next one, a really powerful one here as well, is your brain. This is the powerful one, right? We talked about a few things that your brain can or cannot do. Do you know your brain cannot distinguish between a truth and a lie? It's absolutely true. Look it up. That fact is such a gold nugget. Your brain cannot distinguish between the truth and a lie. So that means your brain essentially believes everything you tell it, everything you feed it. It's like a computer. It just takes it in and then produces a behavior, produces a result. So if you're feeding things to your brain is subconsciously taking notes, subconsciously creating recordings that will come up the next time you're in a board meeting and you start to behave like the guy from Mad Men. So I hope that made you smile. But either way, you get it. We don't realize it, but your brain just believes everything you're telling it. And this is why we cry during movies, is because we're watching a movie and we're just bawling our eyes out because our brains are just believing, putting ourselves in that situation. Mirror neurons, you put yourself in that situation and you feel those emotions. So watch what you're watching. Last one, I think, or one of the last ones, I kind of call it the daily renewal. It's kind of just dedicating a time for yourself where you're feeding your emotions with the right content. And I know a lot of you follow this as leaders, so whether it's reading the right book, listening to the right podcast, really take that time to feed your emotional state. It's going to help you no end. All right, last one. Yeah, it's kind of very related to what I said. Your words shape your world. Last point tonight. Go through a day listening to yourself. Now, this is a powerful one, and I hope that it means a lot to you, but go through a day where you're just listening to yourself. I don't mean to be weird, but go through a day where you're really paying attention to what's coming out of your mouth. You see, what's coming out of your mouth is a great indicator of what's in your heart, of your deepest beliefs or belief systems or your BS. Because when you're able to, what you're going to find is, listen to what you're saying to the people around you, to your kids, to your team members, to the people, to your managers, to your leaders, to the guy at the grocery store, to the guy, at the petrol station, everywhere. Just spend 24 hours listening to what's coming out of your mouth. Is it beautiful? Is it good? Are you proud of it? Or is it absolute garbage that needs a change? And the reason I say this to you is not to make you feel shame or whatever. We all have bad days. We all have good days. But to draw your attention to what's in your heart. So remember that, a great way of to analyze what's coming out of your mouth is what you fed yourself. And some of it is just not true. I often refer to a very easy one to keep in mind. A lot of people say the sentence, "That's just me. That's me. I'm a driver. I like to command people and get things done. I like to, that's just who I am." While we think this is a positive statement, it's really one of the most negative statements that you can ever say about yourself, because it limits your performance right there. Right there, you say, "That's just me. That's who I am." So if you ever caught yourself saying this to a loved one, to somebody that's close to you, remember that it's just a lie. And it's a lie that we constantly feed ourselves. It's an excuse we make to stay in some terrible bad habits, and we cling on to those habits. Sooner or later, those habits turn into addictions. That's just me. I've been smoking since college. That's just me. I love it. It's something that helps me reduce stress. It's not. You just allowed yourself to believe that's what's happening to you. That's the result you're getting. So remember, my friends, it's always questioning where you're at in life, thinking, am I happy with the results I'm seeing in my relationships and my work, or do these need refreshing? Do these need a new neural pathway? Do these need an absolutely new way of thinking? So I invite you, really, that's it. That's really all I had for you tonight. And I really hope that it's been good for you. I hope that it's encouraged you. I hope that it's lifted you. The good news is you can start to change these things immediately. You can start to literally change them in the next 10 to 15 seconds. The next time you speak something, the next time you watch something, the next time you listen to something, choose wisely. Choose how you spend your time, because these feed your emotions and they drive your behavior. All right, let's stop right there, and let's give it just probably a couple of minutes. I want to thank you first for those if you've joined me live. I just want to say thank you. It was just on my heart to be able to just celebrate that 1 year on with you, and just kind of dwell on some key takeaways that will really help you today, whether you're going through a lockdown in your city, or whether you're going through what we're calling a phase 2 here in Singapore, or whether you're going through anything really. Never go through this alone. Remember that virtual is designed to keep you close to the people that you love. So whether you can make some time and speak to family, speak to family. Whether you can make some time and speak to your friends, connect with your friends, connect with them virtually. Have dinner together on Zoom or any other platform, and just really kind of don't isolate yourself in this time. Remember that you have more people around you that love you and that appreciate you. So you're not going through this alone. In fact, it's probably the one time you can never say, I'm going through this alone, because the world is going through it with you. So same storm, different boats. Stay happy, stay positive, and God bless you. Thank you so much for joining me. For those of you who stayed the course, thank you very much. If you've got a question, you can type it in now, so I'll just wait a couple of moments, but otherwise I'm going to close that in about 2 minutes. Thank you very much once again to everybody that's done this journey with me today or tonight. Thank you very much, and great to see you and great to have you on here. We'll speak soon. Bye-bye, everyone.